Righto, so now we're at this stage. We're going to do the coupling rods. So there's a little bit involved in those. It takes a little bit of time, but once they're done, they're done. So that is step 21 in the plans. The rear drawbar mount for the back of the chassis is number 20, but we're not doing that until later, because then I can work out which way I'm going to go with it, because normally I like to fix the drawbar to the chassis rather than the tender. So we'll get that etching out. These ones here. So we'll just separate all those off. Alright. It's a main rod. It's a quick, easy fix. So that would be one set for one side. So we'll basically go along and we'll clean up these little tag ends because we don't need them. We'll keep the centre one for when we do our fold on the rods, and that can be cut back later and filed once it's soldered. Right, so got our toothpick. So we're going to do the lead set first, or you know, the front set. Leads on the other side. So that is the other set. So we're just going to get some flux on that. And now we've got solder has gone all the way through to this side. So we soldered from that side and it's come out on this side. You can tin them and then fold them and then heat them up and put them flat. So now we'll just give that a bit of a clean up with the file, because we've got a little tag at the top here. So that one stays, because that's like your top of your rod, but that's got to come off, and a little bit of excess solder on the, or that's where we folded it. So we can just cut that bit off. Right, so what we'll do now is we're going to tin the back side of this one, fold it, heat it up and stick it. Just like that, both sides. So there's a little bit of a build up of solder in that joint, just in there, so I'm going to use the pliers and slowly add pressure. I'll do it from the back side. Right, so that has now closed up. Righto. So there's our finished coupling rod. We've filed it up, cleaned it up, that one's good to go. So I'm just setting up the rear one now, and that one will look like that one. Then we can do the centre one, which goes between the main driver and the second one from the back. So we'll just get a bit of flux on that. Right, so we've got a toothpick ends at each end, a little bit more flux, so we can really get that solder to run. Good joint at that end. Yep, run all the way down through there. A little bit more flux. A little bit more solder. That's right down in there. Check the other side for looking for any of that solder that's come through at the top, so we know that it's well and truly together. It's come through in some spots, hasn't come through on the big end, so again through at the other end. Good one. Good one. Hot. Hot, 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 hot. So here, that one and that one, and then that one, there and there. Finish cleaning them up. test crank pins. Sometimes you have to do a couple of little easements on the crank pins because sometimes they can be a little bit tight. Pretty sure the crank pins are 2mm, so these ones might be pretty close, hopefully. And sometimes if they're a little bit tight, if the crank pins are a little bit tight on one of the holes, just a little wee turn or two with the file, and that is often enough just to ease it enough to get the crank pins to go in nice and snug. Not loose, you don't want them loose because they're just going to get loose when they wear anyway. Because over time your crank pins will wear, and sometimes these ones probably aren't as bad as the bronze cast ones for getting slogged out, but the axles and horn blocks, after so many years of constant running, well actually probably a year of constant running, you'll be replacing axles and horn blocks. Right, so now that that's cleaned up, just got the other side to do now. Somewhere where we can use it again, because we might need it later. So here we've got some nice clean shiny rods. Right, so I think what we'll do now is we will test fit the crank pins to those. Crank pins are in here. Right, so we've got our front and back rod cleaned up and filed. So we've got no little tags or anything sticking out of those. Now we'll do the main driver. So we're just going to tip them all out onto the board and then put the bits we don't need right now back in the bag. Check our screw and our bushing. Yep, good. Righto. So get your crank pin thread started and make sure it's all square to the wheel. What's going to be the easiest way for me to bring that so you guys can see it? So we want that square to the wheel so it's not like up in the wheel or down in the wheel, it's going straight in, 90 degrees. Yep. Right, so like that. So those four wheels, both sides, so that side and that side, are beautifully quartered. They look perfectly lined up. What do you know? So just under its own weight, and it's a very light chassis. Happy with that, we can just sort of flick the bottom of the gear like so, and all the wheels go round. Choice. So now that we've done those rods were number 21. It's cool. So now we're on to cylinders. Righto. So we've got those cut out. Got the piston rods cut out. So we've got our pistons going in and out, no worries. And we've got our valve holes drilled as well. So now we've got to fit all of that into that. So what we're going to do is we'll take the pistons out and we'll arrow dot on the inside there, around the edge. We'll then insert them into there, and then we'll white metal solder in the bottom and in the top of the side of the cylinder, and then they won't move. So they've got a 1.6mm hole in them, and the valve's got a 1.2. So yeah, I'll turn on the old one and get that ready. Scrap. Make sure we've got a good mix. So first things first, yep, that one will work. Set that one to the side. Looks like we missed our window for that glue, because that's already cooked off. All that stuff's quick. Do another quick batch. Righto, so we have our drain cocks separated out off their sprues. Put those in their bag so we don't lose them. Righto, so we now have to drill out pot mark on that side, pot mark on that side, and on the bottom there's 3 little pot marks along there and along the other side. Righto, so so the front hole in both sides is 1.6 millimeters, and the bottom hole 1.2 millimeters. It's good. I can now clean up the front of that casting, which is what I should have done earlier, to remove the seams from the moulding. That's better. So just test fit that, make sure it fits. It's obviously still too fat, that one. Yep. Right, so I just have to file those down a little bit more. Sorry, I forgot to press record again. So yeah, we've drilled out the front ones. We're now going to drill out the bottom ones, or at least start them anyway. Just to make them a little bit more visible. Yeah, so having to drill in from the side rather than straight up and down, because otherwise there's not enough clearance even in with the pot marks. The pot marks are off to the side as well, because they would go straight underneath. You would never get that to turn with that in place, because I just hit on it all the time. So that's why that's done that way. So I'm just drilling them out by hand. Oh God, I can't do that left-handed. That's terrible. So I'll just drill these out and we'll come back. I kind of got a bit ahead of myself here. So we've got our cylinder drains and everything here. So we're just giving them a bit of a tweak so that everything lines up. So yeah, we've got our drains in. Set those here. Pretty good, I reckon. So yeah, they sit there like that. Now just got to drill through the top and get them mounted, and then I can take them off, and then we can add the crossheads and the connecting rod and do the eccentric crank and all the rest of it, and the valve gear. Oh, the valve gear. Valve gear is always fun. Yeah, so pretty cool. I reckon it's pretty cool. Wheels on the bus go round and round. Here we go. Check our piston slides nice and smooth. Check the other one. Whichever one moves the best on whatever side is what we'll run with. That one's good on that side, so this one is definitely good on this side. Cool. So I'm happy with that. Alright, so one thing I like to do is build the crossheads and pistons and connecting rod and the eccentric crank all off this and this, and then bolt that on, screw that on separately, and then attach the eccentric cranks to the main driver. That way, once that's all done and it's all together and everything's moving freely, we can attach all that to that. Then there's no reason why we can't put the motor and the gearbox on it and spin the chassis up. And on the first chassis run, so pretty much run it for 20 minutes forwards and reverse, or half an hour forwards and reverse, just dry. So no lubrication, just dry, just to get it to bed in, and then make sure that none of the crank pins are going to say reverse out when it's running in reverse and all the rest of it. And then we don't run it again until we paint it and then hook up the pickups underneath, and then we can oil it. Put a little bit of lubrication in there. So everything on that sprue comes off. So that's one complete side of the running gear, and that'll be the other side. And then that's got the eccentric crank on the outside, or the eccentric rod. That's a little eccentric crank there. So we also, when we remove that, we have to thin down the back side of it, so it'll fit between the screw and the bush. So for that hole in the top of the cylinders, drill through with a 2mm drill and countersink with a 4mm drill so the screw head is below the surface. And I find the best way is to countersink it at least almost halfway down. Because if we look at our screws, which are there, so our screws for that will be one of these, will be probably that 2mm one there, which isn't actually that long. So we need to get down at least halfway. But first things first, I've got to make sure that that hole is going to be in the right place, because the minute we drill it, there's no going back. I think that's actually going to be too short. Make sure that's nice and clean, so that sits perfect. Last thing we want is lopsided cylinders. Want them looking nice and straight. Right, so 2mm drill bit. Screw drops in through there. Yep, sweet. Take that out. Righto, now we want to drill out 4mm. I would have thought 4mm would be way too big. I would have thought 3mm would have been better. Let's try 3. Better to take less than you need than more than what you need to. Right, so that head on that screw is exactly 3mm, so we will go to the 4 straight off the bat. It just seems really, really big. Oh yeah, but it clears the head by about 1mm each side, so that's alright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some tape, and I'm going to put some tape around the end of that so it can only go in so deep. So I'll be back.